Let's take a trip back into time, into your childhood. Think about a time when you got into trouble, big trouble, and you got caught. What happened? If your story is like a large percentage of modern society, it might start with, I got spanked. Spanking is a distant memory for some, but for others, it opens a proverbial floodgate of abuse and trauma. The American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry states that corporal punishment can lead to bullying, aggression, and poor self-esteem. These are extremely negative consequences for discipline. But the truth is, spanking falls short because it doesn't truly teach skills, life skills, skills for handling conflict in the future. Today I'll be talking about why spanking and corporal punishment aren't effective, and why conscious discipline, a positive behavior support program, is more effective. We'll also take a look at how you can start to change and encourage a change in others. Corporal punishment means to inflict pain or discomfort on others as a method of discipline. It's hitting, smacking, pinching, hitting with an item, or making a child or another person eat something that is unpleasant, like hot sauce or soap. It might sound cruel, but for some families, this way of discipline has been happening for many years. The AACAP states that parents who were corporally punished as children are more likely to continue that form of discipline for their own children. We only know what we know. This isn't meant to shame anyone. It just encourages you to take a look at your patterns in your history and ask yourself, am I using this form of discipline because it's effective, or because it's simply what I know and how I was taught as a child? Some cultures find corporal punishment more accepting than others, and change can be difficult. But ask this, what does spanking teach? Spanking teaches that it's okay to hit. If it's done out of anger, it suggests that the person doing the spanking has lost control of their own emotions or their own composure. But it doesn't teach the child what to do for future conflicts and how to handle their emotions and conflict later on in life. Conscious discipline is a positive behavior support system developed by Dr. Becky Bailey, a psychiatrist. It's a comprehensive social and emotional program that starts with teaching composure in the adult who is handling the conflict. It also works on developing the areas of the brain that increase awareness and teach children how to handle social conflict. Let's take a look at this picture of the brain. Here we have the executive state, the prefrontal lobes, where we're hanging on, managing our lives efficiently, and our emotions are under control. And we can ask ourselves in conflict during those moments, what can I learn from this? The blue state is a little more emotional. It's the limbic system. Am I loved? Some anxieties start to pop up. When we begin to get upset, we find ourselves in this region of the brain. And unfortunately, once we're very upset or out of control, whether it's an adult or a child, we're operating out of the brainstem, asking, am I safe? Am I loved? This is where a lot of our Cro-Magnon ancestors spent a lot of time hanging out, and it's why they didn't get around to building skyscrapers and creating paintings. It's important when we're teaching children how to handle conflict and handling conflict ourselves that we try to think about where we are in the brain states so that we can teach skills for the future and so that we can make sense out of what is happening to us. So for a conflict with a child, handling it with conscious discipline may look something like this. You walk into a room and your little boy has just hit your little girl in the head with a race car. And you walk up to the victim and you say, did you like that? It sounds like a silly question. Of course she didn't like being hit in the head with a car. But by asking her, did you like it, we're bringing her closer up to this green area of the frontal lobe so that she can recognize what is happening to her and deal with her emotions. So we then encourage the child to say, no, I didn't like that. Well, tell your brother, I don't like that when you hit me with a car. We're teaching assertiveness. We're teaching that child how to look to their aggressor and tell them that they did not like what just happened. Then we move to the child who has been aggressive or to the child that has been dealing out the conflict. And we say, very non-judgmentally, you were frustrated. You wanted to play with that car. You took that car out of your sister's hand and you hit her in the head with it. This is called noticing. Noticing is objective reporting. It's not judgmental. It doesn't sound like this. You took that car and you hit your sister in the head. Instead, it's more neutral and it helps the child reflect on what just happened. Again, bringing them up to the green portion of the brain, to the frontal lobes where they're able to say, that's what happened to me. Yes, that's what I did. We're helping them to think. And then we replace that behavior with what they may or may not do. You were frustrated. You took the car because you wanted to play with the car. You may not hit your sister in the head with a car. The next time that you want to play with a race car, you may ask her. And that's how we start to teach handling those emotions and what the child may do in the future. If you stop for a moment and think about what would have happened in that situation if we simply would have spanked the little boy, then we wouldn't have taught anything in that teachable moment. And that's the cornerstone of conscious discipline, but it starts with composure. So we look at a technique called STAR. It seems very simple, but it's called STAR for a reason. Stop, take a deep breath, and relax. This is the first step for adults who are handling conflict. They need to take a deep breath and make sure that they're coming from a place of composure, that green portion of the brain, the frontal lobes. Because too often when we're spanking and we're using corporal punishment, we're coming from a place where we're operating out of our brain stem, out of anger and frustration. We're not calm enough to handle the conflict ourselves. Only when we are composed can we then teach the child skills of composure for the future. So these ideas sum up the tenets of conscious discipline, but there's a lot to explore and learn. And it sounds peaceful. However, the program isn't just about what feels right. It's also about efficacy and evidence-based success. So let's take a look at a little chart. This is from a 2001-2002 research study using the behavioral assessment system for children in a Florida elementary school. Basically, the conscious discipline program took a look at children who were already at risk for behavioral issues. And they implemented the conscious discipline program over a period of time. Within a year, 75% of students went from having behavioral problems to functioning within a typical range. That's huge, but it means that conscious discipline truly works. A lot of people say spanking works, it stops the behavior, but it doesn't really teach anything for the future. Instead, it only teaches the child to behave when their punisher is within range. That is why often children who are spanked as a main form of discipline continue behavior problems outside the home, where the person who normally doles out the corporal punishment isn't around to provide that consequence. So efficacy is the most important thing when we're handling conflict. It may seem overwhelming at first to think about, but you can make a positive impact by starting small. The best thing to do is to begin with composure, as we discussed. How are you feeling in that moment? Stop, take a deep breath, and relax so that you can operate from your own frontal lobes before handling conflict with a child, so that you can teach them skills for the future. And number 2, validate or notice what your child is doing to help them with higher thinking. All behaviors serve needs. In that moment, if you can stop with composure, take a deep breath and relax, and help your child understand what they themselves are feeling, it will move them to that executive brain state where they are able to learn a skill for the future so that they can avoid having the same problems over and over again. In conclusion, if you're interested, please do reach out for more materials at www.consciousdiscipline.com. It's free, and you'll feel more centered and composed while handling conflict. Life feels better when you're composed. So remember to be a star, stop, take a deep breath and relax, and you can handle this.